more time. 1, 2.
We did it. It's all right. We're there already. Hey, Maddie.
Hey, Dido.
Great to have you on.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Let's just start off with a little introduction. So you train with me at AKA. We both train under Trevor Prangley. You are a purple belt under Trevor.
Yes.
At AKA, you do a lot of things. One, you're a women's only coach. So the class that we have is women's only. You run that. You are an assistant coach in teens MMA with Cameron Robinette, one of our mutual friends, someone who will be on next. We have, you've helped with the littles before, coaching them. So a lot of coaching experience. In 2024, you were the Master World's blue belt silver medalist.
Yes.
Jacked up that arm pretty good.
Yeah.
You were trying to make it happen with that arm, boy, if it didn't jack up, man.
So close.
So close.
Yeah.
I know. And you are yoga for jiu-jitsu certified.
Yes.
So we're going to kind of dive into all that kind of stuff.
Awesome.
I want to start from the beginning though. I remember you from our last location. So you got going. We got to know each other. I kind of feel like pretty quick. Mm-hmm. Did you start off with the kickboxing, the Muay Thai class?
No, I went straight into jiu-jitsu.
Okay.
I had no idea what I was doing. And it's a long story, but I was looking for something for years before I found jiu-jitsu. I was pretty angry. I was an angry girl for a long time. And I was married to the greatest man ever, and we had just had our son. He was 2 years old when I started jiu-jitsu. And I kind of went down this rabbit hole of finding something that would help with, just the mental load of being a mom and a wife and dealing with all sorts of things, And I mean, when I say rabbit hole, I mean, I went vegan for 2 years after doing some research on the fear hormone, thinking that the fear hormone released in animals as they were slaughtered is why I was, so angry. I'm like, if it's the meat. It was not the meat. I ended up almost going blind in my left eye and going to the hospital to find out what was going on with me. And they're like, we're going to put you on medication for the rest of your life.
Wow.
And I was like, I don't think that's it. So I went to like a holistic doctor and he's like, Maddie, go home and eat a steak. So I did. I went home and I ate a steak, and that night was the night I started jiu-jitsu. And so the animal meat wasn't the cause, but jiu-jitsu was like the first step of finding something that was an outlet to deal with, the mental load and things that I was dealing with. And so I just went head first into gi, mostly training. I think it was like 3 days a week that time, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And had no idea what I was doing. The gym was terrifying. You guys were all terrifying, right? Like our ceilings were so low. You walk in and just a gust of like steam comes out. And then you have all these like scary looking dudes with weird ears, and very, very small gym at the time. Our mats were way tinier than they are now. But yeah, and I dove straight in and fell in love, and I'm still here.
Yeah. Yeah. So when you got started, I mean, we've seen so many people in and out of the doors, and in our area, there's quite a few academies to choose from. So when you decided to start training, which is just like the first gym that came up, were you in contact with people? Have you heard of us? Like, what made you start, or how did you know to come to us? Is really the question.
Yeah. I think, I had heard it brought up a couple times as far as like Trevor Prangley's AKA, and I know that it had been in discussion, but I do think it came down to one Google search. And I called, and I remember speaking to Trevor, and he was so nice on the phone, which is so funny because if you know Trevor. But I just called him and I said, hey, I'm new and I want to try it. And, what do I need to bring? What do I need to do? And he was really nice and just was like, just show up and we have everything else you need and sign the waiver and you're good to go. And I was so scared. I was so hesitant. I'm like, I know nobody. I know nothing. And I'm just going to walk into this gym and try something that is completely out of my wheelhouse. I had done MMA when I was like 14, mostly like Muay Thai stuff, and I did it for a short time. And then I got a boyfriend. I was too cool for it and wanted to hang out with him. And so I quit, which I still am mad at my mom for letting me quit because like if I would have stayed in at 14, I would have been so further ahead. But yeah, after finding Trevor's, I tried it one night and I went home and I think I was like vibrating. I was like, this is my thing. You know, I was so pumped and had such a good time. I mean, there was 3 girls there at the time. Michelle, Yolanda, and Andrea, you know, all different kind of ranks, body sizes, everything, intensity, right?
Yes.
Yolanda was just a beast and would roll with the guys, and she rolled so hard. And Michelle, likewise, beast, you know, MMA fighter, like intimidating. And then there was little Andrea, who was like 5 foot nothing. I think I had 60 pounds on her at the time. And she quickly became my first training partner. You know, like we drilled together and would roll together. And I was like, oh, I have her. You know, I've got 60 pounds on her. I've got a foot on her, you know. No, she threw me on my ass over and over for months, you know. And I think that's the whole beauty of jiu-jitsu is there. It doesn't matter the body size, the type, the technique. It doesn't lie, you know. And my first experience was just literally getting thrown on my back and subbed over and over and over every night for months and months and months until I figured it out and slowly kind of held my own against Andrea, at least.
Yes. Yeah, that's, you know, you kind of jumped in at a time where I think at the time we only had night classes and it was still a little bit of sink or swim. You know, we had some programs, we had some framework, but we weren't in the process of really trying to invest and retain in a lot of white belts. We still had the fight team that was really active. The team was small, but the culture was really intense. So not everybody fit that at the time. Nowadays, we have a little bit different setup.
Right.
And, but you came in at a tough time and you stuck with it. And that's kind of the tough thing with the old framework is it's like, if you like it, cool, you'll stick around. And if you don't like it, see ya.
Right.
You know, we got our own thing. We're competing, we're fighting, we got stuff going on. So with you, like you said, like you, after that first night, you were all about it and it stayed that way, right? Like I think some people show up and they like, I feel like I need this, but that may not have been fun for me.
Right.
So for you, I mean, in I guess the first year or so, was there ever a time where you're like I don't know about this anymore?
I don't think so. You know, and what you said was true. The atmosphere back then was a lot different. I was a new white belt girl with acrylic nails and makeup on and, you know, and I came in and I see all these fighters and the girls there too. It was a pretty tight knit group, you know? And there was something about it though, that was like, I want to earn my spot here. And that was a big push for me was I did come in as, you know, a Matt Bunny in the up and coming, you know, looking like that, you know, because I didn't know what I was doing. And like I said, I had acrylic nails and makeup on and was all weird and insecure. And, but nobody gave me the time of day, you know, other than coaching and being instructed. Like there was no friendships in the making for a long time. There was a small little white belt class, I would say, and Andrea would come over and work with me. And we had, oh gosh, I want to say Kale may have been coaching at the time, sometimes Paul. You know, some of the coaches, and it would Jiu-Jitsu 101, you know, the fundamentals. I got bored really fast. And it wasn't that I wasn't learning. I was just ready to do the hard stuff. I wanted to do the cool subs and the cool sweeps and the throws, you know. And so I remember one time, I think it was like 2 months in, I just slowly started sliding over to the other side. And Trevor caught me immediately. And he's like, it's harder over here. And I was like, I know, you know, and I'm ready. Like I wanted to insert myself into this group and I wanted to do the hard things. One of the best compliments I've ever got from a very friendly blue belt was, you just got into it and you just let yourself get ugly right away. And I'm like, yeah, I think, right? Like but it was true. The night I trained, I went home and I bit all my nails off and you know, I was like, I need a gi. And I just threw myself into it. And, you know, I'm not hesitant by nature. I'm like, I like the adrenaline. I like the unknown. I like the hard things. I always want to do the hard thing. And there were definitely days where I would just get the crap beat out of me where I'm like, maybe I'm not as tough as I thought, you know? But in the beginning, especially the first like 5 years of my jiu-jitsu journey, I just went all in, you know? And I think it was part of that angry girl. Like I found something that gave me this release and this relief of the heavy stuff outside of the gym. And it was addicting. And I was definitely it was really selfish training at first. My husband hadn't started training yet. It was just me. It was my thing. And I was very possessive of my thing. I had a young, my son was 2 and my daughter was 6 or 7 when we first started training. And I was like, you've got the kids, I'm going to class. And I'd come home at 9:30 at night, have to shower, have to do all things. He'd be making dinner. Like it was not, I wish I could go back and do it differently in that aspect. But at the same time, I don't think I'd be the athlete or coach or training partner that I am now if I hadn't had to learn that the hard way. And so for the first 6 months, it was me. And I threw myself in. I trained really hard. And I did start to make, create some relationships, some friendships in the gym. And then my husband started training. Yes. And he started with Muay Thai at first. And so I was like, this is my class. You can have that class. Like, stay out of my thing. And again, it was that selfish kind of like possessiveness because he is always just let me do whatever I want. Yeah, go do your thing, go do this. And I was not used to that. I'm like the stereotypical, I came into training with trauma and with with all the baggage possible. And so when my husband was like, yeah, go train, go do this, the freedom I was not used to. We had newly been married. I think we got married July and I started training in November. And the freedom I had, it was like a caged dog who just took off running. And I was like, I'm going to make every possible class that I can. I'm going to train as much as I can. And the shift happened after he kind of fell in love with it too, because I was like, oh, you get it. You're not going to take this from me because you think I'm overdoing it. Like he started building relationships with the men in the gym and he started being like, I'm training this night. You can stay home and make dinner. You can take care of the kids. Right. And I just respected him so much for that because I was like, you understand why I'm here. You understand why I love this place. I love these people. And then it became our thing. And that was such another relief to me, to share this with my partner. And then our kids started training. My daughter started training at 7. And then my son started training when he was 4 at the new gym, but it's my relationship with jiu-jitsu and my training has just shifted over and over and over. Every time I think I'm like, I've reached the peak. Nope. I have this new growth and this new shift that happens, but yeah.
Yeah. It's so cool that you guys train together like you do. Not every couple can do that. There are people, it's just, it's a whole nother thing. I don't really know how to explain it, but most couples I think have a kind of a hard time sometimes where you guys have worked it out. Not only do you guys do jiu-jitsu together, but you full contact spar together.
Yeah.
And you guys call it your date night.
Yeah.
Can you tell me a little bit about that? Because I think for our listeners, that's very intimidating to hear that you're full contact sparring like an MMA fighter. You're doing the kickboxing, the boxing, the grappling, you're doing all that stuff. And one of your main partners is your husband who, thank goodness, he's training. Right. Because he's one of those guys who, up until this point, really, so far hasn't really cared to fight or compete so much. He's there for everybody else. Right. And in doing so, a lot of people don't know, but he's one of the toughest guys in our gym. And for you two to get together and be going after it, talk to me about that a little bit.
Yeah. I used to think, and I used to tell people, I'm like, every spouse, every husband and wife should come in and spar each other. It's like marriage therapy, But then I quickly realized my husband is a unicorn. He is like one of a kind. He has this gentle, calm, peaceful, loving, caring personality that I don't see in a lot of other people, whether it's the husband or the wife, right? Like I am not that way. I am dynamite to his, rushing river. Like he is the calm in our relationship. And it has definitely taken time. Like I said, when I started jiu-jitsu, I did have trauma. It was what brought me into it, right? I had some things that I was paranoid and I had anxiety, crazy. And I was afraid of a lot of things. And I was fine doing jiu-jitsu by myself and other people. I didn't care if, you or Cameron or Jamal beat the crap out of me. I was fine. When my husband started training, I was not fine. And that was really weird for me because having someone you love be aggressive with you when you have the background that I do, it brought all sorts of yucky stuff up to the surface, right? I remember one of the first times he headbutted me like the white belt he was. And I was like, all right. But there was another time and he mounted me and he was just so solid. He's he's got 60 pounds on me. He was a bodybuilder before jiu-jitsu. So he's strong and heavy. And I almost cried. I literally told him, get off me, you know, because it just stirred up so much stuff that I had buried deep down inside. And it actually took a long time and a lot of hours on the mat and a lot of communication with my husband where I was like, you cannot be that aggressive with me. And it was so silly because I'm the aggressor, right? I'm like, I'm going to rip your head off. And then I was like, no, you need to take it down a notch, babe, and let me do this to you, which of course, like he is very understanding. And we have such a great communication that he was there for me, and whatever I needed, he was there. And then slowly we were able to build off of that and this trust and this understanding of limits and boundaries. And we created something now that's like, it's so free, right? Like there's really nothing my husband could do or would do that would trigger me or that would bring up anything from my past. Like I've been able to release a lot of that. And jiu-jitsu came first, right? And for a long time I could get him. I mean, his shoulders were so tight from his bodybuilding days that like a Kimura was nothing. I could have it easy, right? My triangles got him, right? I could get to his back. I was small, but I was quick. And then he started learning the technique. And then he started turning it on me. And now he just frustrates me, right? Because he's a 4-stripe blue belt, but he's done mostly Muay Thai, and his control. He might not have all the cool subs and the technique, but his control from grappling and getting punched in the face while grappling, like it's nothing now. So I struggle a lot in jiu-jitsu with him now. But Muay Thai and sparring, you know, that was kind of a newer thing in the last few years where I was like, I want to spar, you know, I don't really care to fight, but I want to learn how, and I want to be able to hold my own, you know? And so at first it was like, he was the safest partner for me to have. Now, given I have such a great relationship with the Muay Thai guys, and none of them really were out to get me or would hurt me, but they like to teach me a few things, like the way a liver shot doesn't feel great, right? Like, yes. And he wouldn't. He still held himself back. And he let me learn with him, and he let me start to build up my confidence, and you know, to move my feet, to move my head, to be in the right place at the right time. Barely, right? But it just took time, and it was communication. And we'd go home some nights, and I would have to tell him, "You got to pick it up on me." Right? Because he would let me beat on him. And I didn't have a lot of control in the beginning. I'm like, I'm using all the power I have to try to hit you as hard as I can. Right? And I love the kicking. I'm like, I'm kicking every chance I get. I'm going to kick you. And there was a few headshots in there that were not nice of me. Right? So I'm like, I need you to make me feel better about bringing, you know, more force, more power into this until I can learn control. You got to hit me back. When he finally hit me back, I'm like, just kidding. Actually, I take it back. Be nice to me again, you know, because he has been doing Muay Thai for much longer than I have. And he has been getting Cameron ready for fight camp. He has been with the guys, you know, training hard, quietly in the background, just really there for them. And he's come so far in his technique and ability. I mean, he's very talented. And so having him as a training partner really built up my confidence to go with Cameron, to go with Mason, to go with Dakota. You know, I've been able to really kind of open up, okay, who are my safe sparring partners? And I wouldn't be able to do any of this without Ty holding my hand through the whole process, you know? But again, I think what it comes back to, especially for a married couple, is communication. You guys have to be completely on the same page and to be able to talk it through and to have no ego in there. You know, my husband we've never fought. He's never raised his voice at me. You know, he's never been aggressive with me. He's let's communicate through this. Let's talk through right? Like I'm like, put them up, like, let's brawl. And he's like, actually, no, we're going to sit down and we're going to talk through this. I mean, he tamed the flame in me big time. But it also it's a beautiful contrast to what I've been through and what I've been used to. But it also just gave me freedom to grow and gave me freedom to allow myself to become this athlete. And, I just don't, you know, I think that takes a lot for marriages to have. You know, my husband and I have been through a lot of hard times, and we've got through them because of our communication and our trust in each other. And that's just related to jiu-jitsu and training, you know? So really, I think we're just at the beginning of it too. Like, we've gone through a lot of hard stuff, and now we're at this, it's like when you become a black belt and you're like, oh, now the learning starts, right? I'm like, okay, now where do we go from here? You know, I want him to take a fight just because of where his level is at. And I want to see him get there. And I'm like, I want to help you with fight camp. You know, I've trained really hard to be able to hold pads for him, not just as a southpaw, but to be able to catch his power too. You know, I can always tell when I hold pads for Cameron or Ty, I'm like, okay, they're not kicking me as hard. Thank God. Like, right. Like they're pulling their power back a little bit, but I want to be able to offer that, you know? And so a lot of my training is like, how do I help him with his goals? He has helped me so far to get to where I'm at. So now how do I repay the favor? You know? So we're, like I said, we're just starting to really get into it and to learn and to help serve each other. And it's been fun.
You know, it's, what a powerful thing to say that, you know, you come from this background, you had your traumas, and, you know, your husband is in a position that oftentimes I find myself in, and you find yourself in too with the women's only class, is that, you know, I try to slowly move the needle for women that have gone through that trauma. And be like, we're just going to work on this position and see if we're comfortable. And if we're uncomfortable, we'll stop. But you have your husband who helped you through that. Mm-hmm. And like you said, not having the ego, sometimes that's tough to communicate and say, like, you just got to get off of me, because what we do is everything's physical. So you want to be able to go through the technique and make it work. Mm-hmm. But sometimes in your mind, you just shut down and you can't do it. So you have to verbalize. And thankfully you have your husband to do that. And some of your other training partners. And another thing that you mentioned is, you know, you're picking it up on your husband and you pick it up on the other guys. And something I hear all the time from women who want to spar is that these guys don't hit me. They just won't punch me. And I go, what a good thing.
Yeah.
Right? You're surrounded by gentlemen, men who it doesn't feel right to do that. And I know you want that, but it's really tough to get a guy to be like, okay, I'll give you, I don't know, 40%.
Right.
But you got to tell me, right? You got to let me know, because punching you in the face is something I don't want to do. But you and I know the value of this, which is, how else are you supposed to learn? How are you supposed to know? And so for the more advanced guys and the coaches, it's kind of our responsibility a little bit to do that in a professional manner, mm-hmm. to ensure that you're experiencing aspects of the fight so you know what reality is and that you can develop from that. Right. And we have a couple women that spar in there, and they're all really tough, but it's different with the guys, and you want to get in there and scrap a little bit with them. Mm-hmm. You know, with your husband, you know, you guys have that rapport, you know each other really close. What has been your experience with some of the other guys?
Well, that was a conversation I had to have with my husband, because I said, look, I need you to pick it up so that I know what to expect when I ask them to pick it up. You know, he needed to understand that he's going to pave the way, and he's also going to show them what's acceptable. Everybody looks at him and pays attention. And, you know, I'm so protected because of the love everyone has for Ty that it's like they do look for him like, is this okay? But it was very similar with the other men, right? And I think part of it is because they respect me after so many years of grinding with them, but also they respect my husband. And that's one of the reasons I love our gym so much, is they do look to him like, do I have your permission to pick it up on Maddie? And they tread this line, you know, out of the respect for him and our marriage and me personally. But I have a select few people that I'll pick it up on, right? And I think that's a big part of finding your place in the jiu-jitsu, the gym, or the jiu-jitsu community and a whole, is finding your training partners that you trust and knowing that you guys can pick it up on each other, and there's not going to be any ego. There's not going to be any damage to the relationship, you know? And so sparring, at first it started with maybe two other men, right? Cameron, you know, all the Robinette boys have sparred with me. You know, Kobe's been a great training partner with me. He's more my size, my speed, you know, the chaos that I am. But it was slow moving at first. Every once in a while I'd get a liver shot, you know, or a scorpion kick or something, or a solid teep that knocked me on my butt. But it was very rare that they'd really aim for the face very hard, or, you know, it was more just pushing pressure and more pressure. And I think that it was important for them to know that I could handle it, right? So it was a double-sided journey of me putting it on them, asking for them to pick it up on me, but also being like, they wanted to tread that line to make sure that I could handle it. I had no idea how awful a liver shot it was, or getting punched square in the nose, or, you know, or getting hit in the jaw to where it cracks and your ears are ringing. Like, that was all brand new to me. And I think they knew that. And I think from their experience, like, this sucks. Like, you don't want this, you know? And a few of them tried to convince me out of it for a while. And it's the same in jujitsu. Like the hard rolls, right? Like I always try to match the energy or match the pace. And when you're rolling with purple, brown, black belts that roll hard, especially bigger men, they're like, okay, but they would push it, and then they'd see how I responded and reacted. So it's a lot to do with how we read each other and not just what I was asking for. I say, pick it up on me, hit me hard. They're like, you don't know what hard is, right? Yeah. And I had to learn to be like, bite my tongue and shut my mouth, because I'm like, no, they know more than me. And I know this takes time, right? If I would have just gone into sparring and they would have sparred me like they spar each other, I probably would have never come back. So I think a big reason why I'm still here and still showing up to spar is because they took their time, against my wishes maybe, but they knew better than I did. And it comes back to trusting each other and the relationship we've had, and it'll be 7 years this November of training with the men that I still train with, that have been there from the beginning, that have beat my ass from the beginning, but trusting that they know better than I do. And even like with Ty, I'm like, you need to kick me more. Well, he's a southpaw and he's very good at what he does. And he's like, no. And I'm like, okay, I trust that I understand. And even though I'm like, there hasn't been a ton of women in there, and it's different for me. I've always kind of had a hard time with rolling hard with women or sparring hard with women, because, and it's funny because I get what the guys are dealing with. I can hit a guy harder and not feel bad, but when it comes to a girl, we're all so close, and our relationships are so, I wouldn't say fragile, but they're so important. And to do anything that threatens a relationship with a female who's also training hard and has her own goals and things, like, I'm more hesitant to do that. The guys, I've taken enough beatings from them where I'm like, yes, I am going to hit you hard. I am going to and I know they can take it, right? I'm like, they fight Cameron or my husband, and I'm like, I've seen you take way worse. But I've also had to learn the fine line of, I need to control myself so that they don't go over the edge and teach me my lesson, I mean, it's just a constant learning experience, no matter how long I've been in it or how good I think I'm getting. Like, I'm like, oh, that was wrong. I can pull back a little bit, right? I don't need to be as spazzy and crazy and intense. But it's another beautiful journey of learning yourself and control. And yeah.
Well, I think that when it comes to, especially for our listeners, those who aren't in jiu-jitsu, they aren't in MMA, they aren't doing any of this. It sounds pretty intimidating. Mm-hmm. But like you said, 7 years of building a rapport with people, because you probably watch right now, you see some of these women come in and train with the guys, which for the most part, women stay with each other.
Right.
If they want to roll with guys, like we'll get into more of who you are. Because you're a mama bear. Mm-hmm. Like you have littles, you want to protect them. You're like all about, like, I want to know how to throw fists if I have to.
Right.
But that's not everybody. Some people are still working out their traumas. Some people just want to exercise or whatever it might be. And they don't want a big sweaty dude to roll with. They kind of want the, what'd you call it? Like the Matt Bunny look.
Yes.
I want to come in, look pretty.
Yes.
I want to learn how to break an arm, choke a neck, because that's cool. Or I want to hit pads. And I want to do it with people that are also having fun, that aren't trying to get after it.
Right.
And so we see a little bit of that with some of the student base. But as they go, they get hungry and they want to experience that. And we let everybody kind of do that on their own. From my perspective as a coach, I push it. But if I'm going to make, say, one of the women roll with a guy, it's going to be someone like myself. It's going to be someone that is trusted, who's going to let them work, who, if they say, I need some space, we realize that. And it's a little more comfortable. Where in your case, you're like, I'm all in. Mm-hmm. I want to be good at this. I want to do it. I want to be respected. And you have that for sure. But you built that rapport over time. Sparring with Cameron, when we watch Cameron spar with anybody who first jumps in, he's like, I want you to know who I am.
Yeah.
And you will know who I am. And then based off of that, maybe he'll lighten up, maybe whatever. And so when you walk in there, he likes you and he wants you to be good at this and he's going to work with you, but he understands his responsibility with you specifically is you want to be good at this. You want to experience the uncomfortable zone. And he is really close with your husband. So if he hits you, he'll look over at Ty and Ty will give him the thumbs up and then he keeps going and you're like, no, save me.
I know. Help me. There's none of that anymore. That's gone.
No, you're, but you know how to communicate too, where you're just like, give me a second. Just give me a second. I'll get back to it. Just, you got me good or whatever. Where most of the rest of the women have never experienced even having a punch thrown at them, let alone what you're trying to build on.
Right.
You know, so it's really cool what you have experienced, and it really speaks to our fight team because, you know, I didn't expect to get into the sparring just yet.
Right.
That's great. It's okay. We jumped right into it.
Yeah.
That's awesome. But you've got to grow so much from that. And like even last night when we were coaching the teens class, you know, those teens have been working on stand-up a lot. They've been working on the wrestling, some of the wall fighting. And we have so many jiu-jitsu classes and those teens get a lot. And what did we do? We did positional drills. And I said, all right, guys, we're just going to do the positional drills, add punches. And I want to see lots. And half of them are deer in a headlight.
Right.
Right. You've been experiencing it with the guys, but with them, we have to slowly bring them up because they're fragile in their own way. And watching you with one of the students last night, you know, she was having a lot of fun, but not having to experience that before. It was like, what are we doing now? Because with her, she's really good at jiu-jitsu. And you add a punch, and now what are we doing? Now I've forgot everything.
Right. She's really good at both. You know, put her in a Muay Thai, put her in sparring. She's amazing, kicking the boys' butts all day long. Jiu-jitsu, same thing, really progressing quickly, right? But again, you put those two things together, the nervous system shuts down. Even light taps to the face, no, you don't realize how little you have to hit somebody for them to be like, what was that, you know? And for me, it started in combatives. We used to have that combatives class on Fridays, and Trevor would bring in the fake knives and the guns, right? And the gloves, and he'd have us doing wall drills, and he'd have us in mount throwing strikes, and it was light taps. And it still was just like this shock where it was like somebody was turning the power on and off in my brain, and all jiu-jitsu went out the window. And that's, I think, when I was like, oh, I need this, right? Like I saw a problem. I saw a gap in my progress. I was feeling really good in jiu-jitsu. And then someone punched me in the face and I'm like, maybe I'm not good at jiu-jitsu, right? And I think that's kind of what spurred my passion. But a lot of the, I guess the relationships and you know, talking about sparring or jiu-jitsu, it all kind of comes back together, you know? Growing in one sport is going to help you in the other. And I've seen that in Thai. My husband has done mostly Muay Thai, but then you get him in the jiu-jitsu, on the jiu-jitsu mat and gi, and it is a wall of pressure and control and calm, right? You take the punches away and he's like, I'm good here. He might not know all the sweeps or the subs, but like I said, I used to be able to really wrap him up and I'm not going anywhere. His control is just beautiful. And it is the pressure that Cameron's put on him and everything else. It just makes it more real. I had a point I wanted to make earlier about some things you were saying. I want to go back to the women and starting whatever it is, kickboxing, jiu-jitsu, Muay Thai, you know, any kind of combat sport. And I am a very big, like, I'm that annoying person who's like, you need this, right? Like, I've drank the juice, but it's changed my life. And I see that in women all the time, the lack of confidence, this low self-esteem, whether they have trauma or whatever it is, you know, the angry girls. I really connect with the angry girls and I'm like, I've got a thing for you, right? Come punch people and choke people. It's wonderful. Yes. But it really has changed my life. And yes, there is definitely the hygiene effect, right? All the girls I talk to, a lot of the women I talk to are either scared of the pain, right? The recovery, getting sore, getting hurt, getting thrown around, getting punched in the face, or the sweat and the bodily fluids and the body contact. And I scare people because I'm like, oh yeah, one time I pulled this guy's chest hair out between my teeth, right? Or this other time, you know, Ed had a scratch on his face from rolling with us and I'm looking, he's in my mount and I just see that drip coming down his nose. It went straight into my eye and it was just all blood red, you know? And I'm like, I got to stop telling people these stories.
You just told everybody.
I know. But what I tell the women and anyone who starts, I'm like, you set your own pace. You could roll with women forever and never roll with a smelly guy, right? Not that women smell much better. And I will tell you right now, I have my days. But it's a very personal journey. You do not have to come in guns blazing, all in, head first. You know, that was me. And that was my style. But you can come in slow and you can take it slow and you can take it easy. You don't have to roll as hard as all of us do. You don't have to prepare yourself for competition right away. You can slowly enter in and find your own rhythm and find your own game and learn to love it without the craziness. Yes, injuries are going to happen. Yes, you're going to get headbutted, but you might fall down the stairs tomorrow, right? You're going to stub your toe and maybe break it. Like, you will get, certain things will happen, but that's going to happen in real life too. And I really encourage any woman who has ever wanted to do something like this, or has the smallest inkling to try, just to do one class. You know, I just convinced somebody this last week to do a private lesson with me on Muay Thai. It's a mutual friend of a friend, and she's an angry girl like me, you know. But I see her and I see the things she's struggling with. And I'm like, when I tell you that this can help, it might not fix it, but this can relieve some of that. I mean it. It is life-changing. And for me, like, I have this love for this sport on such a deeper level than just because of what it's done for me and my abilities, right? That's almost secondhand to me. And yes, I love that. And I cherish my little violent self. But more than that, I cherish the peace that it's brought me. And I think a lot of moms, a lot of women, we have so much going on in our lives and we're so stimulated all the time that to have something that shuts that off for even an hour, right? To be able to go into hit pads or to roll with your girlfriends and to laugh and to push yourself and to suffer together. That, I think that's what it really comes down to, is suffering with another human being who is right there with you in the dirt, in the trenches, right? You're both learning together. You're both struggling, maybe with similar things, maybe with different things, but you're doing it together. And there's this whole community that gets together multiple times a week to suffer together. Like, it sounds weird probably to an untrained person, but this is where, like, it's a beautiful, beautiful thing to be a part of. And to know, Mel and I were just talking about it. We all have our outside lives. We all have stuff going on and all these heavy burdens and all this constant stimulation of whether it's kids or work or illnesses or whatever. And then we meet on the mats and we slap and bump, and that just pauses for a brief moment. And that, you know, relief of just a moment of peace, whether it's violent and aggressive and difficult and sweaty and bloody, right? It just helps make the outside world so much more manageable. And I think that's why I started really wanting to coach and really wanted to bring women into the gym, because if you knew me, you know, 10 years ago, I was a completely different person. Everything that I hated about myself has really been snuffed out by this sport, because I've had to let go of those versions of myself. And I mean, it took me a while to stop wearing a full face of makeup to training. It took me a while to stop trying to fix my hair perfectly, or to be okay with, you know, the sweat and the snot and the nastiness, right? I mean, yes, I jumped in head first. Thank you to that one guy who was like, "You got ugly really fast." Yeah, I know. But it took time, right? My skin would break out really bad after a hard night, and I'd be like, I'm not going at all this week, whatever it was happened, and I'd stay out of training because of my own insecurities. But what I realized was it was halting my progress, and I missed the mats, and I missed my people, and I'm like, you know what? You guys are going to get this ugly version of me, because it is a personal journey. Nobody cares. I remember we've had these talks, like, nobody gives a shit what you look like, right? We're not here for that. And when I finally got over that, I mean, it was just so much more freedom, because I'm like, yeah, nobody really does give a shit if I am breaking out, or if my hair's being ripped out of my head, or I've got the whole fro of all the baby hairs, you know. I'm like, but they notice my progress. They notice if I catch them. They notice if I'm, you know, my stamina is being built up. The stuff that's important really comes into clear view. And that was an unseen blessing, I think, from my jiu-jitsu journey, was I do not give a shit what anyone thinks about me anymore. And that is something that is just, it is freedom to me, you know, as a girl who grew up with the life that I had, you know, women were sex icons, you know, we're supposed to be pretty and put together, and we're supposed to fit these images. And now I'm like, I could care less. You know, like, all I think about is training. All I think about is my kids and coaching. And when's the next time I get to ref? When's the next time I get to coach my son in his competition? Like, how are we? And then we go home and life is so peaceful. We don't drink crazy. You know, we don't do anything that we used to do to keep ourselves busy and to fill our time, because we train hard. We're exhausted. We come home. We enjoy each other's company. We have amazing friends. The community just has completely surrounded our family. I've lost friends from jiu-jitsu. I've lost a lot of people from, you know, outside the gym. I have nothing in common with anymore, you know, and that was a big part that was really hard in the beginning, letting go of who you were before this. And maybe not everybody has this experience, but for me, it was like, I don't even want to be that person anymore. This offers me so much more. And it's subtle and it's simple and it's not this complicated, And I mean, really, it comes down to being life-changing. I've shed versions of myself every year and even months to come, I mean, I'll be a new person in a couple months from now, hopefully.
Well, with your coaching, especially, because I think when it comes to coaching, you deal with so many different personalities.
Mm-hmm.
And as a coach, you really have to adjust a lot. We teach jujitsu, but jujitsu, as we know, we feel that it can apply to everybody. I tell guys all the time who have spinal fusions, they have knee and hip issues, name it. There are certain things you can't do. We're going to address those.
Right.
But it can still work. We're still going to manage how we can make this kind of happen. You touch on something that is really important in terms of the mind. I think that so often we have so much going on in our mind and in life, and it's nonstop, that when you go to do jiu-jitsu, try to think of those things, right? Because you get into this place that's almost kind of like Buddhist-ish, where your mind isn't thinking about anything at all other than, I'm just trying to breathe. I'm just trying not to get smashed.
Yeah.
Right. But what's nice about that is, and what we've done is, people with trauma, when they come in, quieting the mind to that trauma an hour and a half or 2 hours at a time, 3 times a week, you start to realize that that's actually taking an impact. Like, jiu-jitsu can be difficult and uncomfortable and whatever, but normally people that have trauma start to realize, like, the quieting of the mind is actually helping with my therapy. Because it is good to talk about what's going on with your therapist or whoever else you have. Usually it is a jiu-jitsu coach.
Yeah.
It's very true.
Therapist Titan.
That's right. We wear many hats as coaches.
Yes.
But to get in there and to train and leave and then be stuck on, how did that person punch me? How did they choke me? Instead of thinking about the past and those issues, which is really hard to get over. And for us with the community, it's another thing that we have is, not only are you quieting the mind for that period of time,
Right.
but then also you get to know people so well that they're like, hey, you okay? And it's the super tough MMA fighter who
Right.
now you see the softer part of them, right? Or it's the cop who has this crazy background, or the SEAL team guy. Then you get to see the soft part of them because they've spent so much time with you, they realize something's off. And then they want to come and help you out with that a little bit.
Right.
And you're starting to experience that, I'm sure, from a coach, because they come to you and they want to explain why they want to start or why they're having a hard time a little bit. And now you're therapist, Maddie.
Right.
And plus you're the DJ. Plus you're supposed to know everything about diet and fitness and sleep and, what kind of peptide am I supposed to take?
Right.
And you're like, I just teach people how to choke people.
We do the fight here.
Yes.
No, there's so much truth to everything you just said, right? And I'd love to shut everything off. And there's days when I I just show up and I train, and then I go home, and maybe after a few hours it hits me again. But there is also a lot of power in being able to process while you train. And I think that comes later. I think when you first start, you're like, I just need to numb. I just need to turn it off so I can breathe for a little bit, right? But then you do build these relationships, and you do have people asking, and you do have people checking in on you, right? There was a good couple of weeks where Cameron's like, I'm not sparring you. Every time you spar, you cry. Okay, first of all, I don't cry. There may have been one little tear that came out, and then I sucked it back up, right? But I've gone through some hard things in this last year. And I mean, I've gone through some hard things all 7 years of training. But this last a year, 2 years has been a lot, and I want to touch on some things because, like, what you just said was so important. For those who don't know, my mom was diagnosed with cancer 4 years ago, and it was a long, drawn out battle. And she has been one of my biggest jiu-jitsu supporters ever, she'd show up. I even got her to train jiu-jitsu for a short time in the women's class. And she did have some arthritis and things in her neck that just would not let her do it, But she always supported me, always encouraged me, made all the kids' competitions. When I went to Worlds, my husband and kids stayed home and they all watched me on the TV. And, I got pictures of her with her, bald head, curled up, watching me and sending me text messages, encouraging me. And that was kind of what Worlds was for me. It was a big push. You know, in my head, I'm like, okay, my mom's fighting this battle and suffering in this way. Like, I can't help her. But what I can do is my very best, and I can suffer and I can push through. And it was a huge just leading cause of everything I kind of was doing in jiu-jitsu at the time, right? I'm like, I took my frustration out of her cancer on the mats. And every time I'd start to slip up or I'd start to make excuses of why I couldn't train or not training hard enough, I'm like, my mother is fighting the worst battle for life, fighting for her life. This tiny 100-pound, at one point 83-pound girl is, you know, I mean, suffering physically in this way. And what, my cardio? I'm going to quit because I can't breathe. I'm going to quit because I'm tired, you know, and she pushed me and propelled me in my journey because of that, because of the example she set as far as suffering goes. But then in April of last year, my mother lost her battle with cancer and she passed, right? And after that, I did take a little bit of time off of the mats. But when I came back, I was just welcomed right away, you know, and people have learned from me. I'm like, I needed the pressure back. I needed the real on the jiu-jitsu mats. And so I came back and they're like, it's go time. You know, we love you. We're here for you. We understand. They all reached out to me. Everyone reached out to me, called me, you know, checked on me. But when I came back to the mats, they're like, all right, let's go. And immediately that pressure was back on. And it was like this, okay, I know what I have to do, you know? But 6 months after that, my dad's like, you don't have enough character development, you know? So he took his own life. And I remember it happened on Monday, October 27th. And I was immediately angry. You know, this was much different as far as, you know, going through loss again. I processed it much differently. I did not take time off. Monday, you know, we lost my dad. Tuesday, I went to spar. And nobody knew at the time, right? So I show up to the gym and we do our Muay Thai and I'm quiet, but everybody knows that my moods are up and down. So then we spar and they beat the shit out of me, right? No tears that day, but I was like, this is what I needed, right? And it was really good. Well, then they found out 2 days later and I go back to spar on Thursday. And I always just laugh when I think about this because they still beat the shit out of me, right? But when, you know, Kobe swept me at one point and I would have landed hard on my back. And the last second, he just braces me and drops me down slowly. And I'm like, knock it off. Like, no, don't start that, you know?
Yep.
But you could tell, like, they knew what I needed as far as the beating and the hard training session. But at the same time, like, the relationships we have would not allow them to go all the way. They're still like, we know you're hurting. We are here for you. But they said it in my language, not the let's hug it out, right? Which I would have stabbed them. But, you know, the gentle, like, we understand you. We know you. We have built these relationships over time. And again, it's the most sacred thing, I think, in jiu-jitsu that it does take time to do. But I remember from the beginning, I'm like, I want to be a part of that. They did not give me the time of day until I suffered with them, until I sweat with them, until I bled with them. And I had never had that, you know, not to be vain. And I hate that this is about to come out of my mouth. But as a girl who was pretty and I grew up with this, like, you know, I had a womanizer for a father. So I was always looked older than I was, wore makeup. I was in a bar way too young. You know, I had the attention of men my whole life. And I hated that. And so when I came into jiu-jitsu and these guys did not even look my way and they were like, they could care less who I was, right? There was this like need to earn their respect. I wanted that. I wanted to earn something that maybe was given to me too freely as a young minor mostly, right? And so when I finally did, and when I finally got into this like inner circle of the fighters and the men who just trained hard, who were there for business, they weren't there to, you know, it wasn't a recreational necessarily. This was their livelihood. And this was something that takes years and a lot of hard work to be a part of. Like it really motivated me to earn their respect, you know? And so after all this year happened and all the hard things happened, I'm like, I felt very seen in a very violent way, but it was like, this is what I needed. And since then, you know, it's been October will be a year since my dad passed. And I'm like, I have gone like this, like where I'm training hard and then I, you know, might need time away, but they're always there. The mats are always there. Jiu-jitsu's always there. Muay Thai's always there. I can always return. And I've had to go through this process as far as my personal training experience, my jiu-jitsu, my Muay Thai, and now really trying to step into coaching and really trying to be there for other people. You know, you said something to me I was a blue belt, and it was right before we got pregnant with my youngest. And I was struggling with the idea of being pregnant. Because again, it took me a couple years to not be selfish with my training. And the idea of having a baby and getting pregnant and my training changing massively, right? And then rebuilding my body for the third time. Like there were so many things, doubts and fears in my head of losing progress or watching people progress without me. And you and I on our many HR therapist sessions, right? you just said the quote that's, I think it's, you've been assigned this mountain to show others that it can be moved, right? And to this day, everything that happens in my life, I go back to that. Because I know what jujitsu has done for me. I know that without jujitsu, I probably would not have survived losing my mom. You know, I know without jujitsu, I would not be the wife and the mother I am. And I want that for other people. And I think that's, you know, I've reached this turning point in my jujitsu career where it's like, competing, awesome. You know, I love showing that I have it and that I'm proving it to myself, but I want to bring others up. I want to show others that the mountain can be moved, whether it's loss or trauma or, you know, doubts or insecurities. Like, I mean, I have 3 kids, you know, I've ranged anywhere. I think I've lost 85 pounds from my heaviest weight. I've rebuilt my body multiple times. I've dealt with the breakouts. I've dealt with the doubts. I've dealt with the losing of the hair, right? Like I've gone through all the petty things, but I've also gone through a lot of the harder things. I've come back to jiu-jitsu multiple times, whether it was a baby or loss or moving, right? We've moved 9 times in the last 4 years, right? Wow. Like, but jujitsu is always there. And I want to show moms and women and young girls even, you know, we've got a lot of really up and coming talented teenage girls right now. And I want to be someone that they look to and say, okay, I can do this. I have as much ability and capability as anybody else, but I want to be there when they have the hard questions, when they deal with the difficulties of training with boys or men, right? I want to be that older sister, that the mom, you know, as far as, yes, I will be your mat enforcer too. Like but it's all kind of shifted for me. And I think building up the women and bringing, and to show them that it's not as scary as it sounds or seems, right? It's not this thing. You actually can do it. Yes, you who homeschool, you who have the full-time job, you who have a million things going on in their lives or the million fears or the baggage, like anybody can do this sport if they're willing to suffer a little bit, right? Yeah. And put the time in. But
yeah, that's a lot.
It's a lot.
Yeah. Well, it's great because you're talking about so many different experiences, and now, now you're the coach, and you're teaching this women's only class Fridays for an hour and a half, whatever you have going on. And it sounds like you have a fair amount of people just trying it out, checking it out. And again, a lot of different people from different backgrounds, people that don't have the trauma, but you're right. They have a full-time job or they have 4 kids. They have all these other responsibilities and they've always wanted to try it, just kind of see what it's about. And so it's kind of your job as a coach to show them why they need it, right, why they need to be there. And all the things you just said are just kind of the tip of the iceberg on what the training and the jiu-jitsu has to offer. And so, you know, you've been coaching for a little while. You started with some littles, you know, and that's always a lot of fun. You know, you've coached them, you coach the teens, which is really kind of, I don't want to say it's new to both of us, but it is interesting. I would say that in my experience with the teens, they've always been too cool. You had the exact experience that most of them have, which is I'm 14, got a boyfriend, see ya.
Yeah.
And we see that a lot. And what we've built it at AKA is, you know, my teens jiu-jitsu class might have 30 kids on it. The teens MMA class, 20 or 30 kids. Right. I mean, those mats pack out. And it speaks to the culture, the community that we have, and really the friendships that those kids have made.
Right.
And then we get to deal with it as coaches, watching them go through the awkwardness.
Yes.
Of like, you get to go wrestle with that boy, telling a girl to do that. And now they have to become physical,
right,
and that's awkward. They don't want to do that.
Yeah.
You know? And so you got to get them to do that a little bit. And, you know, you get the girls chatting in the corner and the boys trying to show how tough they are. And it's a weird environment with the teens.
I think it is until it's not, right? I think there's this there's a shift that happens. And I think for us being a part, like, there's a lot of kids who trained at the old gym. There's a lot of kids who train who their parents train and we're close with them, right? So there's certain relationships that are not new. And I think that really helps balance it out because it helps new kids see that, oh, they like their coach. They hug their coach when they see them. They come to their coach when they're hurt or when they're dealing with something, right? And being a coach, I remember when this kind of started picking up and I kind of was like, I saw a position that was needed for the women's class. And I was like, I don't want it. I don't want to commit to it. I have no emotion. Like emotionally, I'm not capable of taking this on. And I remember you being like, yeah, most coaches don't want to coach at first, but they feel this pull and they feel this call to do it. And my heart was there. But when I first started, especially with the teens MMA, right, you got a lot of boys in there who know all the stuff. And I'm a female coach. And so especially coaching under Cameron, someone who is a fighter, someone who is incredibly talented, incredibly scary, right? Very blunt, very straightforward. I was the quiet assistant off to the side for a while. But same kind of thing with your teammates. You earn their respect by giving them respect and you show them that you care about them, whether it's gentle or not. You push them and you create this relationship where it's like, I want you to get better. I am investing my time into you because I believe that you can do this, or I know that you're hungry for it. And you show up for them in that way. And that's something that kind of on the podcast with Zach, you said, it's like, you have to want to do that. Because kids are naive at a lot of things, but they see through adults. They see through if you actually don't want to be there and you're just there for whatever selfish reason, right? They know if you care about them. And as a mom, but also as somebody who was a teen, right, and did this sport and who loves this sport and knows what it can do for someone. I started coaching littles as a white belt at the old gym, just helping out, fundamentals, basic 101. And then at the new gym, I was more coaching littles still for a long time, helping out here and there, being the Yuki, But it was a transformation I saw in 3 months of a child who comes in, cries on their first day, right? And that was kind of my job. I'm the icebreaker before they get to you and Cameron and Trevor. I'm like, yes, you can cry to me. We'll get all this out and then you can move on. But they would come in crying. They'd come in scared. They'd come in hesitant. And you give them 3 months. And they're like, did you see that? I hit that sweep. Did you see that? I got the Americana. Like, they're stoked. And they're a completely different kid in a short amount of time. Their ability changes, their confidence changes, their self-esteem changes. And yeah, maybe they're not the most talented or technical kid, but something in them realized I can do hard things. I can show up, and this sucks sometimes. And I'm tired and I want water, but I push through, and they're so proud. And it's an addicting feeling to be able to create that in someone's life. And then you see the teens who are way too cool, right? And it's just another challenge. It's like, okay, you don't know me yet. We haven't built this rapport, but we will. And I believe in you and I believe in this. And as your coach, I'm going to push you. And you learn personalities. There are some girls who, if you push them too hard, they cry. So unless you want to deal with tears, don't push them so hard, right? And that's kind of where my expertise comes in. I'm like, Cameron, you've got those guys. I'm going to deal with the more sensitive ones, But when Cameron's not there, they get a little bit of both. But then you have people who need that direction. They need that, like, okay, snap into it. We're going to pick it up now. You're going to push through this. You're going to train with the big guy. You're going to take him down. Whatever it is, you have to instill that confidence in them, I mean, at times, right? They will find it on their own. But where they lack, you almost have to pick up the slack. And you have to fill gaps as far as, no, I know you can do this. I know you want to quit. I know it's hard. And then it happens and it's all of them, right? Yes, you were that voice in their ear and you showed them technique or whatever, but they did the work. And I think that's another beautiful thing of jiu-jitsu is you can't cheat this sport. There is no magic pill. There is no, there's no way to progress without doing the work. And the kids and teens, it is so important for them to realize at a young age that they can survive hard things, that they can get through hard things. And yeah, I mean, same thing with the women, same thing with coaching. Coaching was never something that I thought I would be so driven to do so much more, and I am just really getting into it. And the women's class has been great, and it's been the same kind of girls every time. Then we'll get random new girls, or we'll get some girls who are cross training and they'll come in all different ranges. Right. And as a coach, it's my job to learn each person as far as I can push this person this far. I can encourage this person. This person's going to need to talk to me for at least 30 minutes after class, right? And you wear so many different hats. And I have so much more respect for you because I'm like, you have hundreds of people. There's no way. No, I'm good with my little class, right? I'm like, this is a lot. And I think as like the female teaching a female class, I do open that door. And I definitely think others can do it differently. I think that they can be more closed off and it's just technique, it's training, and then see you later, see you next class. To each their own. That's not how we do things,
No.
in my experience. And there's a lot of value in that because it's an investment of your time and energy, but we're all in this together, especially once you get on the jiu-jitsu mats together. It is a family, whether you're very, very close and kind of a part of the old gym or, you've been around a long time or not, everybody's welcome. You're accepted, just don't muddy our water, right? Like you like to say the poison in the well. People will either come to our gym and fit and feel right at home, or they won't and they'll leave. And, I hope the best for them. I hope everything's great. Go find your home, your gym. Absolutely. But I want more and more people to find their home with us. I want more people because I know what we offer. Like I'll say it 100 times, this changed my life. You guys, were a huge role in who I am now and someone I don't hate anymore, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I have my days, but.
Yeah. Well, I'll say that, you're getting into it. You're right about all that stuff. I think that, being a coach, like you said, having your heart in it is a big deal. And with the kids, I tell people, you've heard me say this before. I have always had a kind of a passion for psychology, and I've always wanted to be somebody who is either a psychologist working with kids or like a marriage counselor and working with people. And so I had looked into that a lot and studied it. And, clearly I didn't go that route, but I use that to this day. And part of what I understand about kids psychology is they need consistency. And so as a coach, as you come in and you're coaching, like I have some assistant coaches, but I always tell them, if you're going to be here, I want you to be here consistently. Mm-hmm. I don't want you just to come in when it's convenient. And it's for the kids. And we talk about some of the kids that we teach. There's a handful that do have trauma. And part of that is a parent leaving.
Right.
The way you coach, like you said, some of the kids are tough, some are soft. And I tell the coaches all the time when I bring people up, you can't be that intense to every kid because some of them weren't, their history wasn't a physical issue. It was a verbal issue.
Right.
And so when you're like, I need you to get up, I need you to go over there, they're triggered.
Mm-hmm. They shut down.
They shut down. They won't work. And some coaches will get mad about that, not knowing they don't tune into that. It's like, well, clearly that kid's reacting in a negative way to your behavior. Maybe you should consider there's a reason for that.
Right.
And this is the same thing with the women you teach. It's why it's so important for you to be there. Doing that class, be committed and be there because some of them, as we know, maybe it's the husband that they had just left. Mm-hmm. That's a trauma. And you need to be careful about, taking time off. You need to be consistent because they look for you to be there.
Right.
And we have a lot of other women that will help you assistant coach, of which, we have just absolute monsters that come in and help you out too,
It's a huge blessing because so many different styles too, like Christine, I tell a lot of the women, I'm very upfront with myself as a coach. I'm like, I am not your competition coach. The technique that you need to do well on the competition mats is going to come from someone like Christine, right? That she's your go-to, she's your girl. She knows everything that, that's who I go to. I want to be, and something my whole practice is more around self-defense, like really fighting. I want to know that I can defend myself as much as possible. And so there's certain things I'm not going to bother to do, or at least do well, right? I will learn them for the sake of learning them, but it's not going to be my focus. So being able to call on Christine and say, hey, we need guards. I need you to come in and show your guard game or your leg locking game or whatever it is. The expertise in Christine or even Amanda, like, okay, we need some top pressure, right?
Yeah.
I want some pressure passing. I want some throws. She's stoked for it. Some of our coaches and even people who aren't maybe coaches, but have the knowledge to teach or have something that they're proficient at. I mean, it's incredible to have such a variety of people. And like I said, there was a need for a women's class. There was a lot of women who were just hesitant to get on the mats with men, which I completely understand. Our night classes are huge. Some nights there is no room on the mat, and that is scary from an outsider looking in, right? How are they throwing each other with, almost 100 people on the mat, it seems like. Mm-hmm. And so just to give them a more intimate space to come in, there's not a bunch of men around. They don't feel like a bunch of eyes are on them. There's plenty of space on the mat. There's someone who's going to hold their hand and walk them through it. The more people you have, the harder it is to have those intimate relationships. As far as, being able to stop and break it down for each person. You guys do a great job, but there's usually 4 or 5 black belts on the mat, right? For the women's class, it started out small and it is getting bigger. But sometimes I think that one of the hardest parts for me is like, you need my attention, you need my attention, you need. So I really have to kind of stretch class out to be able to meet everybody where they're at and to give the attention where it's needed. We are very blessed at our gym to have the people we do. And then they're also hungry to coach. There's never a time where I'm like, Christine, I need you to fill in. Life happened, right? I have something, even last week, I had something happen and I was not in the mental space where I could teach. And I said, hey, can you be there? They need to work on guard passing. Yes, I'm there. Super excited, pumped. Talked to all the girls. They had a great class, learned some guard passing, And that's really what I think is also good. The consistency is important, right? So anytime I'm at the gym and I see the girls from my class, I'd be sure to go up and talk to them. How are we doing? How have you tried adults class? Have you been implementing the things you're learning? Like that connection of I care about you outside of this class is very important, especially for females. But to be able to bring in other people too and say, look, we all learn together. I would be nothing without the upper belts who taught me everything I know, right? This is not I'm the only person you can go to and I'm your coach. No, I need you asking everybody questions. I want you feeling comfortable. My goal is to get everyone out of women's class and throw them into adults class. And I'm very upfront with that. I'm like, I want you to come here and I want to build your confidence and I want to help you train. But eventually I want you to have the balls pretty much to go up against the guys, right? Because it is for me, it's a more realistic expectation. Yes, training with someone my weight and my rank is wonderful. I love that for me as far as competition goes. But the reality is if I'm ever attacked, they're probably not going to measure my weight, my rank, It's going to be a big dude with bad intentions. And so I want these women training with big dudes, maybe not with bad intentions, right? But I want them to understand how small we are and how our strength and our size is going to hurt us in a real life self-defense situation. So we have to be technical. We have to be crafty. We have to be fast. We have to have mobility. We have to be smart and use the things we've learned in a way that will actually work. And maybe some women will never leave women's class, and that's fine. And I will be there for them, and I will put up the pressure. And I will, I'll have to find other ways to make it more realistic for them in time, right? But that's, I think, the fluidity of a coach is to know who just needs to stay in this safe place and who is ready to move on. And we've already got some itching. I've got some aggressive girls that I'm like, you need to stop beating up my nice girls and go beat up the men.
That's right. Yeah, those ones will be easy to transition over for sure. And they're looking forward to that. But like we said, that's not everybody's path. There's a lot of women that need that year or two on the mat, spending time with you, asking tons of questions. You might even on one of the classes say, I'm going to bring a man in just to be on the mat. And if you want to experience a role, he's going to give you 10%.
Yeah.
Just so you can kind of see what that's like a little bit and push that barrier a little bit and get outside that comfort zone a little bit, right? So, and we'll figure that out on the go.
Yeah.
And it's a good thing that you're doing because so many people, it's not just the women. I've had friends who have told me they're going to come train. They text me. They're like, I'll be there in the morning. And I don't see them that morning. And I'm like, all right, well, I'll just run class. We'll do whatever. And then later I check my phone and they're like, I was literally in the parking lot and I was afraid to come in.
Yeah.
And people think about our academy as a bunch of MMA, big ripped fighters that are top 10 in the UFC. The majority of the people that train with us are middle-aged dads who are mid-career with 3 or 4 kids, people that have traumas, people that just want to try it out and get in shape. The gym was boring, so they're like, I want to get in shape. And jiu-jitsu makes you strong and makes you lose weight and builds the confidence and all the things you were talking about.
Right.
And for those women, that's a lot of it. Some of them are like, I don't want to fight like you do, but I like to lose weight. I like to be a little more fit. I'd kind of like to know kind of what I'd have to do if I was in a situation.
Right.
And I just want to try it out. I've always thought it was cool. So that's way different than you, where you're like, I'm going to put the boots to somebody.
Yeah. I think there's so much that it offers, right? You do not have to come in, and be a part of the fight team. You do not have to come in and learn self-defense because you're going to get, you're paranoid, like maybe I was about an attacker or whatever it is, or defending yourself. That does not have to be the reason you train. I do a lot of kickboxing too. And I'm a part of the women's kickboxing class, and it's conditioning, it's cardio, it's gossip, it's us talking and venting and, talking shit to Trevor as much we can in a safe distance, right? Yeah. It's just fun. And that's, yes, they're learning strikes and they're learning kicks, and it's good endurance training, and it's awesome. But mostly it's a relief of raising kids. A lot of us are homeschool moms. A lot of us are just busy, and maybe, we are wanting to get into shape, or maybe we're just looking for a community. The gym offers all these things, right? And then if you're curious, you can try other classes. You can watch the other class. We purposely made the women's class right before open mat, so that if women do want to roll with the men, there's men showing up to do open mat after, and they can just roll on in there, right? The kickboxing class, we've slowly bled some of the girls into Muay Thai. They're like, I want to work on my technique. I actually do want to spar maybe. I want to try it out a little bit. And so they come from kickboxing and dabble in Muay Thai. And it's this like little trickle, and you create the space and you let whatever happens. People will find their game. People will find their passion, whether it's kickboxing or maybe jujitsu or maybe Muay Thai. And then they have us little coaches whispering in their ear like, hey, but your ground game sucks.
Yeah.
Right? It's like, hey, try this. Just give it one class, or, dabble in this. But, the parking lot situation is very real. And I remember there's been plenty of nights where I'm like, you know what? I bet they wouldn't even remember me if I never came back, right? Yeah. And I'm just going to leave. And like I said, I had a friend, another angry girl like me, and she is very hesitant just to do a class with other women. She's like, everyone's really good at this, and I hate being new. I hate being, not know what I'm doing and being made a fool. And I get that. That's the only way I've learned, is by showing up, making a fool of myself in front of a bunch of people. But that's why, the private lessons, the opportunities, like, and I brought her into the gym after kickboxing, and I said, we're just going to go over a few things and we're just going to see how it feels. And yeah, her daughter was there playing around and pulling on her shirt the whole time. And I think we literally learned like jab, cross, hook and some kicks, but she loved it. And it was this whole eye-opening thing where she's like, I could do this. I could get into this. And I was told multiple times by people who knew her, she will never do it. No, she might say she'll do it, but she'll never do it. And I'm like, I'm going to keep trying, I'm going to keep opening that door. And now it's going to be a weekly thing. And I told her, I said, I will work with you as long as it takes for you to get comfortable to do class. Because that's ultimately what I want. Not because I don't want to be there for her or do those private lessons, because there is a lot more that I can't offer her. The friendships, the community, the skill set, it's like I'm a stepping stone. And that's really what I want to be as a coach. I mean, yes, I'm ride or die all the way to the end with anybody who wants me to be. But for the most part, I'm like, I want to push you further. I want to push you in Dighton's direction, into Christine's direction. You want to compete? Absolutely. Let's build up your confidence until I have nothing left to offer, and then go get Christine, or whatever. You want a cage fight? I'm going to be there for you. I don't know how to corner very well, but I will be there yelling. You will hear me, right? My presence will be known, because like I said, without the upper belts, without the coaches, without our long drawn out HR conversations, I would be nothing. And I think that's a big deal in the jiu-jitsu community, is finding the gym that is right for you, right? Finding the people, finding your people that are right for you. I have been built up by this community. I have found my home at AKA. Trevor doesn't know it yet, but someday he's going to legally adopt me. It's a thing, right? I got daddy issues, and he's the one. Yeah. But no, I mean, really, it's survival for me, and it's this beautiful thing. My kids, my husband, our family in general, this is our home, and it's our life forever. Jiu-jitsu is always here. The mats are always here, Muay Thai. And I think that's what I'm like, you can't convince someone of that. You can't convince anyone the benefits of jiu-jitsu, Muay Thai, whatever, without them training. And so getting them through the door, getting them out of the parking lot and into a class and putting the smelly gi on or stinky gloves on and getting them to try it is honestly, I think, the hardest part about coaching. The rest, once we got them hooked, I'm like, I got this. But if I have to drag you through here with my bare hands, like I might actually do that.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Well, you make a lot of good points, and I think that, we were able to touch on quite a few little things there. And I'd like to kind of change gears in terms of, and it's not going to be a surprise to anybody hearing about this process, but, our 2024 run with AKA, it was a little bit, for me as a coach, I had that imposter syndrome, and I wanted to know who I was producing. And people can say they're good coaches or whatever, but I'm like, we're going to hit pans. We're going to hit worlds. We're going to do all these things. And you were on board for Master Worlds. You're like, I'll go, just turned 30. Let's make this happen. And so, we had a big group of people come together.
It was
to
like
help
19 of us.
Yeah. There was a handful of people that, initially it was 19. I want to say it dropped down to 15 or 16 people that jumped in. But the whole academy came together.
Yeah.
And at that tournament, I want to say there was 5 or 6 of you that hit the podium, of which half of you got gold. You got
Wasn't
silver right there. You had to break your arms.
Yeah.
So. But, you went into that, and I remember at the very end, and I can't remember what was said. I'm sure you do. From Trevor. And it was so, we have a lot of banter. There's a lot of wit that happens in our academy, a lot of crap talk. And we like that. We like it that way. So when a compliment comes our way, we almost get the ick.
Yeah.
Like, whoa.
Immediately.
I did something right.
Yeah.
And you almost don't believe it, but you showed what we're trying to develop, because there was a couple matches there that were really hard. And you showed perseverance and heart and the things that you always told me you were working on, something that you wanted. Like, I want to know how to fight. I want to do these things, but also I want to know myself.
Right.
And I want to know that if it gets difficult, that I'm just going to keep going and I'm going to do it. And that was something that Trevor saw in you in that. So can you speak a little bit to that 2024 experience a little bit?
Yeah. Oh, 2024 had so much going on for me, and it was all sink or swim. We had just, my mom was in the hospital very sick. My dad was suicidal, and I was struggling big time. And then, the one thing I had that was just keeping me afloat was like, we're all going to Worlds. I had competed twice before Worlds. Once as a white belt, got my arm partially dislocated then too. Won silver in gi and gold in no gi. And then in June, I think no-gi Worlds was August that year. In June, I competed in a purple belt bracket. My second time ever competing, right? Got gold in that. So I was feeling good, except for the fact that I was exhausted. I'm like, I have to do this how many times at Worlds? But yeah, the training camp leading up to that, honestly, that's really the year I found God. I mean, it was like a big struggle of trying to really decide where I wanted to go. And like I said, sink or swim. So I was like, I'm gonna swim until I can't swim anymore. And my mom was sick, all this stuff's happening. And then I have Trevor, who, all jokes aside, from the day I started training, the way I looked up to him and the way I saw other people look up to him and the respect. And yeah, he's, got his jokes and his comments and the nicknames, and I've had them all. And I had to just kind of get through it all, because I did insert myself into this community, right? And I inserted myself into hardworking men and women, and I wasn't that yet. I hadn't really earned a place to stand with all of you guys. And that was a big deal to me. When Worlds became a reality, I was like, I have to do this. I need this, for inside gym, outside the gym. I needed this challenge and this push. It was like a survival for me. And we started camp, and, Mark was my training partner all through camp, and he beat the crap out of me, and he would purposely anger me through our rounds to make me push harder. And he, luckily, all of the training partners that I have know exactly which buttons to push, whether it's to piss me off or, but we all just suffered together, and it was awful. And honestly, it was a wake up call, because I'm like, is this how it's going to be? I'm like, damn, why are we all training so hard? Like I had my 2 competitions before that. We didn't train so hard for this. I had no idea what Worlds was going to be like. You know, there were 33 girls in our bracket, and I'm like looking at all of them. They compete all the time. They're like, Instagram influencers, badass women, moms, hardcore people, like normal people too. But I was like, I might be out of my depth here. But the thing is I had committed to our team that I was going to be there, and I had told you that I was going to be there, and we had already started. So it was like, you're in it now for good. You're going to go. And so we did it, and we all showed up at Worlds. And, a big part of me for Worlds was, I have this fixation on death to the flesh. I wanted to kill my flesh. I wanted it to be a major stepping stone in leaving a person behind that I was no longer carrying with me. The person who made excuses, the person who really was half in, half out, a lot of things that I didn't like about me. Worlds was like a testament to this ends now, right? And yes, it had a lot to do with the team. I wanted to show up for our team, and I wanted to try hard, and I wanted to, succeed with everybody. Of course, the goal was to succeed. And I really don't think that it was ever a gold medal for me. My mom at the time, like I said, was really sick, and her and I had these huge talks, because this is the biggest thing I'd really ever done. I didn't leave town. I never went to Vegas. I'm a small town girl, but I told my mom, I said, I'm going to put everything I have on the mat for you. I've watched you suffer. I've watched you push through. I'm going to leave it on the mat. And so I wrote on my arm that morning, death to thy flesh. And I went onto that mat, and she told me, she had texted me right before I got on the mats, and she said, remember that you are a daughter of the king. I have it tattooed on my arm, but it was just like in my head, I was like, all right, that's what I'm doing. I'm going to give everything I have, win or lose. Like, I'm going to give these girls a hard time. We got in the bullpen, I'm warming up, and I'm like sweating, and I'm like, Trevor's there and you're there, and we all have a whole team. And I had watched all my other competitors compete before me, really. I think we were one of the last ones. And I'm like, they all did so good. Don't fuck this up, right? I'm like, okay, but the nerves and the adrenaline rush of competing is disgusting. Like, I hate that, but it was very real. And we got on the mat. The first match was actually not as hard as I thought it was going to be. I think the girl probably, her nerves may have got to her. She kind of crumpled under me, and I got a bow and arrow choke, and I was like, damn, that was it. No, the next few picked it up, and it was the 4th match that got me. I mean, it was hard, and this girl was so sweet, and she was so talented, very technical, very fast. I had trained with mostly men leading up to Worlds. Big, heavy, slower, aggressive, strong men. Training with women, competing against women who want to rip your throat out. Like, they are so much faster. They're so much more technical. I mean, it's a whole other thing. I tell women all the time, train with women too, roll with women too, fight women too. Don't just stay with who you're comfortable with. And for me at the time, it was men. But that 4th match, it was neck and neck, right? We were scored the same, just crazy scramble, and she caught me in an armbar. And I had I flashed back to my white belt competition where I was like, I heard that crunch and that pop. And she had I was in turtle, and she was belly down with the arm. And I was like, I'm sinking or swimming right now. What is this? And I felt you guys, you and Trevor were right there. We were really close. And I was like, I just have to keep going. And I felt that pop and that crunch. And I was able to somehow get her back on her back and get out of that. She gave up. She really, she could have snapped my arm. I mean, and she was trying, and it was like everything from my mom, everything from our gym, everything that leading up to that moment. It was really cool, because it was kind of this slow motion moment for me where I'm like, I either tap and walk off this mat pissed at myself and disappointed in myself, or I let her honestly snap my arm for a $5 medal, right? Like, that's where I was at. But I was able to somehow get on top, ended up back on bottom. And then I, me and my weird mobility, I pulled this random sweep out of my ass. She was in a reverse mount, and I brought my legs around her waist, locked them behind her back, twisted my body, and ended up on top. And that sweep, I remember the match was over shortly after that. I stayed there. He called the time, and the ref, who absolutely despised me, I think, got on his little ear, and they reviewed it. And because it was either I won with those sweep points or I lost. And we sat there for a very long time sweating. I'm moving the whole time. I'm like, what is happening? And he raised my arm, the arm that I had just popped viciously, right? He like grabbed it, he just yanked it up. I'm like, oh, this is fine. And I won, but I see you and Trevor in the back of the video. And it's to this day, it's like my favorite thing. Trevor collapses. You fist punch the air, it's like, it's one of my favorite moments ever. And it makes everything worth it because it's like, I have worked so hard to get there and you guys had put so much into me to get me there. And it's this just sacred thing I have. But then the finals match came.
Remember what we said in the bullpen before that?
Yeah.
You were like, my arm. We're like, shut up.
I know. Trevor came. I forgot about that. Trevor came to the side and grabbed me and pulled her arm into his side. He's like, don't let them see your pain. And I'm like, okay, this is going to be fine. And I had dumped everything in that match. It was that girl. She put it on me hard and it was a battle and it was awesome. The epic battle that should have been my finals match. No, but he just said, he talked me through it. You guys talked me through it. Don't let him see the pain. Don't nurse that arm. And I'm getting rid of the bullpen and I look down and there's this girl chilling with headphones on, just vibing, and I'm like, I knew she was my next match. And it was the shortest break time that I had in between matches. And sure enough, I've got this tall Russian looking girl who's just, you could tell her confidence was like, and it broke me. And ultimately what it came down to was like, I had given everything I had in that last match and mentally I broke. And I was like, because mentally I almost broke in that fourth match with that armbar. But when I saw her elude this confidence and, something inside me was like, she's already got you, and that was my mistake, I think, by allowing that to happen and allowing her to get in my head. But we still fought and we slapped and pumped and it was a blur. I had this like out of body experience where I was like, I was not breathing. My arm was throbbing. She caught me, pulled guard because every match I had at Worlds pulled guard, which I was not ready for. We don't really pull guard in our gym. And the guys definitely don't, right? I'm used to throw me or shoot on me, but everyone pulled guard and got me into our guard and set up a triangle and had my injured elbow in her arm and I almost went out. And to this day, I'm like, just let her put you to sleep next time, Maddie. Like, that's how I want to go out. But no, and I tapped and it sucked. In that moment, I was devastated, right? Leaving the mats, our whole team's over here, right? And I'm over here and I'm like, I V-line it for get out of there. I'm like, I book it this way and I'm running this way because I'm like, don't cry, don't cry, don't cry. And within a minute, I feel this big ass arm over my shoulder and I get pulled into this hard chest and it's Trevor. And he just holds me and he tells me, you have nothing to be ashamed for. Like your finals match was that last match. You gave everything you had, and just spoke all this gooey, gross, sweet, loving, father-like things into my head. I start bawling. I don't cry, there's only so many people at the gym who have ever seen me cry and the embrace and the words, and I believed him. He wasn't trying to make me feel better. I knew I gave everything I had in that fourth match. And when Trevor came and just really like that coaching moment, because it felt like a coach who was proud of me. And that was something I'm like, there's something broken in my heart that kind of healed right then, and he just grabbed my face and he's like, you did great. You have nothing to be ashamed for. Like that was exactly what we want. You push through. Like, we're so proud of you. And I'm like, I don't know if I want to hit you or I want to hip toss you. Like, I just cried, I cried in his arms but it made it okay, really. Like, it allowed me to be like, you did give everything, If Trevor, if that can come from him, I can probably name on one hand how many nice compliments he's given me in 7 years.
Yeah.
But each of them have been worth it, right? Like, you earn your place, you earn that respect and that kindness and from the quiet, people. But it was, again, life-changing. Worlds was incredible for me. And I got to go home and give my mom my silver medal. And it was everything I wanted it to be. The pen I had written on my arm was like almost completely rubbed off. And I'm like, hell yeah, Yeah. But again, I got to podium. My third competition ever was Worlds. And I'm like, it's all because my coaches. It's because of how we train. Like, for me, I didn't even know what I was getting into when I signed up for Worlds. Right. But I was pumped and ready for it. And I do feel like I was ready for it. And I do think that if maybe I hadn't pushed that armbar so hard and somehow I could have escaped or just not got caught in it. Right.
Sure.
I could have given her a harder round and I would have liked to made that fifth round just better, whether I want or not. I am never, I've got a chip on my shoulder. Triangles are my thing. And to get subbed in a triangle, I'm still a little bitter about it, but she earned it,
Do you feel like you left that person you wanted to leave behind?
Oh, 100%.
But you did that.
Yeah.
You got the compliment from Trevor. You got that. More or less, you got everything you were searching for.
Yeah. We were all laying down by the podiums waiting for, the rest of our teammates and stuff. And that was the same night that I said, Trevor, when we get back, will you baptize me? And he was shocked. And he's like, well, do you know what it means to be baptized? And, gave me this, he totally out of the element of jujitsu world and stuff. And I'm like, let's talk about Jesus. And, but it was a huge turning point in my life. I hated who I was, or at least I hated things about myself leading up to that point. And I was struggling really hard with just being angry at the world and God. And, and I was like, things are so good. And then hard stuff happens. And I'm like, I just want to be able to survive those hard things and keep coming back to the jiu-jitsu mats in our community and myself. And like I said, without jiu-jitsu, I don't think I would have survived any of it. It's very personal to me, and a couple months later in September, I guess a month later, we all rolled at the gym and had a really awesome Monday night roll. And I caught Trevor in an arm bar and he bit me in the back of my leg to get out of it,
That's right.
But that was the same night he baptized me. And it's a full circle experience for me. And I think that it's okay if that's not the same for everybody, right? Not everybody's looking for this life altering situation or experience. And that's totally fine. It's come in, learn to choke people and punch people. Sweet. Yeah. But if it's something I think that if you want or are needing, it will surprise you,
It's so cool your experience from where you started all the way through your coaching. You've had this intense competition experience and, touching on the spiritual aspect of things, our academy is very much that way. Most people that we train with, we all have faith in God, and Trevor does baptize a lot of people. He baptized me a long time ago. And so that's something that, something just kind of on the side, that when people hop in, it's unsaid. We don't try to push it too much, but you're like, these are, for one, they're really tough people. Mm-hmm. They're really good people. And we keep ourselves in check with our spiritual path and the battles that we have there too. Right. And so there's that little characteristic, whether someone's spiritual or not, they do get that benefit of that spiritual care that we have for people and that importance and that kind of stuff. So, and it's funny. That is the dynamic of our academy. Like with you, he knows you, he has rapport. Yeah. He's going to bite your leg out of a joke. But then at the same time, it's an immensely valuable thing to him that he gets to baptize you and ensure in our perspective that we're saving our soul. Right. We're going to heaven. That's an eternal decision. That there's those things too. Right. And it's funny that those things happen probably 30 minutes from each other.
Oh yeah. It was the same night. And, and like I said, it's not something I had no idea, the man of God that Trevor was, and he started having the men's Bible studies and there were certain things and I had been grown up Christian, but I had always kind of pushed things away. And there was just a door that opened, and whether you walk through it or not, or really cared to know more, there's women who do little Bible studies after kickboxing. There's no pressure to be something that you're not, but there's always this open door, whether it's, finding God or something else. We all are on different walks of life and what it comes down to, I think, is our character. We talk a lot about this, the character development, but also what we expect from each other and our community. We hold people to high standards because there are children and families and moms and wives and husbands, and we all train together or separate, but our community is all held to a pretty high standard as far as respecting others and treating others with kindness. Now, I will say, if you get closer into the friendships, right? If you insert yourself like I did, you better be ready for the banter. I grew up with redneck brothers and construction workers and nobody holds a flame to our guys, right? And yes, I dish it back. So you have to be aware of that too. We are really good at talking shit and it's this comfort level that we have with each other from years of building relationships. But, at the end of the day, I can't tell you how many times somebody's like, can I pray for you?
Yeah.
And I'm like, you're going to make me cry. No, leave me alone, you know? No, but, and it's the same person who just punched me or kicked me or choked me almost unconscious, you know? And it's like, this is where I have made my home, my family. And whether other gyms are like us or not, like, sorry if you're not, but you know, you could be great too. You know,
Sure.
There could be great gyms. I'm sure of them. No.
Yeah, no, that's it's very true. Our banter back and forth to us is endearing. We realize that if Trevor isn't giving you a hard time,
Right.
that could be a problem.
Yeah.
It's like if he's not calling you names or whatever in a friendly way, then maybe you're not as close as you want. And when we talk about that inner circle, there's been people who, it's not like it's a line that's drawn. It's not a physical thing. You just kind of know you're part of it. And I've had people ask me about it, like, what is the inner circle? I'm like, it's the people who, when they tell me they're going to be there, they're going to be there. They don't have to say, I promise. Their word means something. And there are people who have shown up for everyone in that circle in times of need when it was inconvenient to show up.
Right. In and outside the gym.
That's what I mean. Yeah. It's I think about one of our fighters, Owen. He needed a corner in Utah. And so I'm like, I'll just fly down and do that. Now, usually there's more leeway. There's more head time. I know what's going on. That was last minute. I'm like, I'll just buy a plane ticket and let's go.
Yeah.
Because he's also somebody who would do the same thing for me.
Right.
And that's what an inner circle really is. So really, many people can be part of it, but you need to be able to dish it. You need to be able to take it. You need to be someone who's trustworthy and honest and all the things you kind of expect out of somebody, especially in a martial arts academy. And for us, it's not just the martial arts, but for a lot of us, we have that spiritual value too. So it's like, if I trust you, it means something.
Right.
I'm not wasting my time with you. And I talk to people about Cameron, our mutual friend. If he tells me he's going to be somewhere and he's not, I'm driving to his house to figure out why he's not
Something's
there.
wrong.
There's something wrong. That's right.
So I think another bonus to the inner circle and being a part of it is like, we accept each other for who we are, and we are all very different, right? Like the people, and it's showing up to train, it's showing up outside of the gym, it's showing up, but I'm like, I don't like some people sometimes. I could still be like, no, that was a dick move, or like, you're just driving me nuts, but I will accept you and love you, and tomorrow we're gonna try again, right? Like, I know that I can show up whether I'm in a perky, happy, vicious mood, or I'm depressed and quiet and need to be left alone. They're not going to torment me and patronize me. And if I, like, most of the time, we're flipping each other's shit, we're doing good. But they know me. And it's this investment into who I am and an investment into who they are in this relationship we've built that it's like, I don't need to be anything that I'm not for these people. Now, new people and people, like you said, with Trevor, he's got his customer service voice. He's got his professional side, and that's wonderful. There's a time and place for that. Some people do not want to be buddies, and they have absolutely deserved the respect to either be that or not. But once you have invested and you've shown up and you've inserted yourself or you've become a part of this family, walls go down, right? And you get to see different sides of people. And that's what I love. I love the authenticity of the relationships that we've built at the gym. But yeah, you might see something you don't like. I'm mouthy, and it has been a journey to shut my mouth sometimes out of respect for my husband and myself and being held as a higher standard as a coach, right? I can flip shit with the best of them. And I used to love that. But I've also seen where I have to learn to control myself now that I'm in a leadership position for teen girls and women. And, for me, especially like with the teen boys, back to our Muay Thai conversation, I can't offer them a lot as much as Cameron can. They need a man to look up to, and they need a man to lead them. But a big part of what I do is I want them to see how Cameron treats me as a female, as a coach, as somebody who also deserves their respect. And I want them to see that I'm also invested in them, that a female can also help them. And, whether it's maybe with the softer sides of things, or I'm like, I know when my kids are upset, when the kids have gone through something or maybe had an off day. And I want them to also have that comfort there. At the old gym, it was so much worse, so much harder to survive there, right? Like, you guys were brutes. And there wasn't very much gentleness, you know, and I think we have grown so much as a gym. And I was there 7 years ago, go back 10 years, 15 years ago. I couldn't even imagine. But the growth that's happened with the softening of these hard men, of these men who have fought and fought and fought and suffered and gone through pain, you know, I never imagined seeing Trevor hold babies while moms are doing kickboxing classes, right? Like, you know, he's playing with the kids. He's like, okay, now 1-2 sprawl and, you know, hurry up. You guys are pathetic. And then he's like, baby. And I'm like, what happened to you, right?
Yeah.
But it's this beautiful transition into, we have a huge community at our gym now. We have a lot of members. I don't know everybody. And that's weird. I used to know everybody. But how cool is it to have that many people? And so, yeah, people are softening. The personalities are getting gentler. We're more open, you know. The big, scary guys are now not as big and scary. Yes, they're still lethal, and we all know what they're capable of. But we're also human. And I just, like I said, I hope I'm not the same person in 2 months that I am now. I hope nobody is. I hope we all continue to grow and continue to open our gym's doors but bring jiu-jitsu out into the world and show them how it's changed and molded us as people, how it's made us into better athletes. You know, the community of jiu-jitsu is insane. It is growing like crazy right now. When I first started, even 7 years ago, I felt like nobody knew about it. I definitely didn't know how many gyms there were locally. But now my Instagram feed is everybody, right? It is jiu-jitsu this, jiu-jitsu that, Muay Thai. Like, obviously the algorithm has me figured out, you know, there's some dead dad stuff in there too. But for the most part, you know, it's just growing exponentially, and it's very cool to see. But I think our job of creating a atmosphere like what we have is so important, because not all gyms are created equal, you know, and not all experiences are going to be good. And so to be able to offer what we do to the community is very, very cool.
Yeah, I agree. Well, Maddie, I think that's where we're going to button it up.
Nice.
There's a lot of things, like I said with Zach, that I would have liked to go over. But there's always more episodes to be had.
Yeah.
You were natural. I didn't have to do anything. I was pretty much like Gary in the background. I'm just here. I'm letting you talk.
It's because of our many HR conversations. We've done this.
We have done this. That's right.
A lot of fun.
So, thank you for coming on.
Absolutely.
I think people are really going to enjoy this.
Oof, I hope so.
You made it easy for me.
Well,
so
I'm happy to be here. And this is just so cool. You know, it's an honor to sit across the table from you, Dido.
Yeah. Thank you. Well, you have women's class now, right?
Yeah.
So we got to go teach more women, get them on the mats. And we'll get this out. And I'm really excited to have this episode out.
Cool. Me too. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.